But today we have Jayne Chapman. I've known her for quite a while, even though we haven't been in contact for all that time. I've still have, been in. She's been in my mind, I should say. And I actually saw her on TV a couple of times, which was exciting throughout the past year or so. And she is a huge Obama fan. And Jayne knows everything about politics in Palm Beach County, and she lives there, of course. So that's why. So, Jayne, first of all, thanks so much for coming on the program. Greatly appreciate your time today.
Well, it's interesting, Rob. As you said, we met the first election for Obama, and you look exactly the same. And of course, you sound exactly the same. You still have the same heavy New York accent. And that's what I remembered about you. So when I saw your name, you said, I wonder if I remembered you. Of course, I remembered you. We did voter registration together at FAU.
Right.
We did several things together. So yes, I started I started the first OFA group in South Florida the day Barack Obama announced for president.
Mhm.
And I was very alone in Palm Beach County. Hillary was
Right.
really very, very strong in Palm Beach County. So I had a lot of work to do, a
Right.
lot of work. Yeah.
Well, you did a lot of great work, and I believe in 2008 and in 2012, we know that 2012 was a lot tougher in Florida for the president. I think he only won by, I think it
He
was a
won,
couple
though.
thousand.
You
Yeah, he
only have to
won.
win by one vote. He won. Yeah.
Well, regardless, you were a big part of all that work. So,
Right.
Jay, let's get into the thick of things here. What
Sure.
made you become so passionate about politics?
Um, you know, I've always had a passion for things that mattered to me. I'm 74. I
Mhm.
know. Whoa, old. And I, did was out for the women's movement.
Mhm.
I choice was very important to me. So there were a lot of things that I was out in the streets fighting for. But I didn't really get actively involved as far as making phone calls and all the rest of it until I did phone banking for Sherrod Brown
Oh,
and John Tester. Move On locally had phone banks where we were able to call voters for Sherrod Brown and John Tester. So when Sherrod Brown won, I felt for the first time this power,
right.
like I really mattered. And then Obama, of course, was my major work. I worked for Kerry, I did stuff for Kerry, but nothing like what I did for Barack Obama.
Were you in Florida in the 2000 election when all the shenanigans
Uh,
went down?
I moved
Can-
here in 1991. Yes, and that was a big thing too. I mean,
right. Bring us back
I
to that.
huh?
Bring us back to that time.
Well, this is what I'll tell you what I remember about election day, because in those days I was still voting at the polls, and I had not slept the night before, so I was really tired when I got to the polls. So when I was at the machine, rather than just go and voting, I went my finger across to make sure that I voted for Gore. And that's when I noticed that, first of all, they didn't line up. That was the first thing. Second of all, for the first time that I've ever seen, they had an independent between the Republican, because, you know,
Bush
um,
was husband.
Bush was, yeah, Bush
Bush was
was
the
in power.
governor.
And then they had, um, oh God, what was his name? The,
Buchanan,
thank you, Buchanan. And then it was
the
right,
anti-Semitic man.
right. And then it was Gore.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling what happened was going to happen. I happened to go. I happened to go. I was playing poker on this little gambling ship that went out because we didn't have on land poker yet. So I went on this little boat, and one of the guys I played poker with told me he had voted for Buchanan because he just automatically went to the second slot. So he was one of the ones. And even Buchanan said
Right.
that there was no way he got 14,000 something or other votes. So we won Florida. You know, even though we lost Florida, we won Florida. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that about 75,000 names were taken off
Yeah.
the voting list because they had the same last name, same name as felons. That was
Yeah.
one stunt. And then in Riviera Beach, which is a very heavily populated black area, the police were pulling cars over for any excuse that they could think of to try and keep people from voting. Now, do you remember when Florida was announced for Gore
Yeah.
first, okay? And you saw Jeb and his brother on the phone,
Yeah.
and neither looked very concerned. So
Right.
we knew the fix was in. There was no question. Can I ask you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I didn't get cynical until late in life. You're
Yeah.
so young. And no, but I mean, to have to, I mean, the only thing I remember that sort of knocked me off my chair a little bit
Yeah.
was the Kennedy Nixon election, where they said that Joe Kennedy paid the people in Chicago,
Right.
and nobody ever really, I think, proved it. But, you know,
Mm.
that gave me the first hint that maybe things were not, and I'm an up kind of naive, I guess, because I always want to think the best of people, but it's hard with politics. So has it made you cynical at all? Because you've only in your lifetime experienced very, very bizarre elections
Well,
with
it
a lot
has
of
because,
issues.
sorry to interrupt you, but it has.
Yeah,
Because we look at even the Bush election, that was a rigged job. Al Gore
right,
should have been president. I believe he should have been president. I think that there's
100%.
no contest in that.
Right,
I think in the Kerry election too, what happened in Ohio? How
right,
was all these black people couldn't
right.
vote? There was talk about black people in Cleveland where they pressed the button for
Yeah, and it's
Kerry
flipped
and
the
it
vote.
switched to Bush. Yeah. So what about that? And all these Deloitte, these voting machine
Machine.
companies that
Yes,
they said they
yes,
could hack into all these machines. Come on,
exactly.
man.
I
You know,
know.
I, I mean, these all these things. I mean, this isn't just conspiracy theories. People
Right,
that have cuckoo clocks going on in their minds. This is legit stuff. You
right.
know. So yes, it has. And I mean, you look at Gillum, you look at Stacey Abrams, and what happened in that
Oh,
election. It's
yeah,
a total joke. This consistently happens. What they're going to try to do and what Trump's already saying about the mail-in ballots. He
right.
just went to
Vote
North
twice
Carolina
and
yesterday,
vote
Jane.
twice.
Yeah, vote twice in North Carolina yesterday. So who's the
Unbelievable.
fraudster now? Who is the fraudster now when you're
Right.
telling people to vote twice? And then he says, oh, he's not going to concede. And I don't like Hillary Clinton, but I agree with what she said. She said, tell Joe Biden, do not concede the
Right.
election.
Right. I
Because
agree.
you know what? And they made a point of this. I listened to Randy Rhodes, who was
Yeah.
actually down in your neck of the woods in Delray. She lives down there.
Right.
And I listened to her daily. And she said, you know what? The ballots during the people that voted in person, they might come in and say Trump won. But all the mail-in ballots that are coming in
Right.
may be Democratic votes and may
Right.
switch the election. Biden has to say, I will not concede the
Right. I
election.
agree. I agree. So, but this is what because you're, a political animal. So it's not going to no, I'm serious. So it's not going to make you not vote. I'm
No.
hoping that your generation, because I know a
Well,
lot of your generation just says, what's the point? Our
agreed.
votes
Yeah.
don't count and stuff. I'm hoping that this guy has been bad enough that they're going to say, I'll take a chance. I'll take another chance and vote. That's what I'm hoping.
Why were people in South Florida so against Bernie Sanders when there's so many Jewish people in South Florida?
Well,
And it
I'm
just,
Jewish. I'm
right, I
Jewish,
know,
and I've never been a fan.
but
I just
why?
why? I know his background.
Okay.
So, I mean, look, if you want any, what he did as far as the following is incredible,
Mhm.
considering he did nothing in the Senate. He really didn't do anything in the Senate.
But,
I am as progressive as anybody,
mhm,
but I call myself a pragmatic progressive. I'm
mhm.
going to give Bernie props because without Bernie, we wouldn't even be having a conversation about Medicare for all.
That's right.
You know,
Yes.
we wouldn't. I have to give him props for that. And you have to admire what he was able to do. I also really, I blame him partially for Hillary losing
Why?
because he didn't concede when the numbers just weren't there, and that bothered.
But Jane, and we're being respectful with each other. We
Yeah,
just disagree.
absolutely,
But Jane,
absolutely.
when Hillary ran against Obama and you were an
Oh,
Obama
I didn't
supporter,
like that either.
Hillary ran all the way till
I
June,
didn't like that either,
and
Rob.
there was all those Pumas. Remember Pumas? And
Yes,
they were against Obama, and there was a lot of racist
right.
stuff in
I
that
don't
Puma
like
stuff.
any of that stuff. I
And I
just
think that was
think,
worse than the Bernie supporters being
well,
against
both, it
Hillary.
was both bad, quite honestly. I mean,
Hmm.
we are, if you are a Democrat, and number one, I'm a Democrat. I got to be honest. Do I love everything about my party? Hell to the no. But I think that once you have your delegates, and I don't care at the time, yes, the super delegates and all that jazz, and you have to give him props for that too, because this time they didn't allow that, the way they did the last time. So you have to give Bernie props for that. But once the numbers were there, Bernie really should have conceded. Once the numbers were there for Obama, Hillary should have conceded. The
Hmm.
election, probably the Obama election, look, he was going to win. He just mesmerized the country. Hillary never did. Too many people never liked Hillary. So that was, I mean, I voted for her, of
I
course,
did
but
too. I did too.
yeah, but I never was a big fan. I got to be honest. I actually like her better now. I've seen her
Yeah.
since she lost, and she's different. They did an interview with her, and they asked her about that, and she admits it. She said, "I think for all the decades that they came after me for everything, I became very not like myself." And she's now like herself and says, "I don't care anymore."
But Jane, the thing that bothers me, and I think it bothers a lot of Bernie supporters in general, is that the Hillary people still blame Bernie Sanders for the loss. And my thing is with Bernie. Bernie did over 20 some odd rallies for Hillary Clinton during 2016. He can't, he can tell his people who to vote for, but he can't go and physically make every supporter go in the voting booth and vote for Hillary Clinton. There was a lot of stuff, like you said, a lot of people just did not like Hillary Clinton. I believe in the Hillary Clinton issue, and I'd love to hear what you have to say back about this. I believe that Hillary lost because she did not go to Wisconsin. She did not go to Michigan. She did not go to Ohio. She did not go to these places a lot.
Right.
There was
There
also
were
the stuff about, let me just finish this up.
Comey,
Well,
Comey.
there was Comey, but there was also she voted, her husband voted for putting NAFTA in place. And Trump, he's a con artist, he's a used car salesman, he's a liar, but he hit Hillary hard on that. And I believe that he's going to try to hit Joe Biden on the same issues. NAFTA, trying to push the TPP through, then she was against it. Now, it's going to be harder to push Joe Biden because a lot of
Right,
people like Joe Biden.
right.
As I just said myself, I don't like Joe Biden's policies, but I think Joe Biden is a good and decent man and he means well. So it's going to be a lot harder. But I'm very worried about Joe Biden in general. But what would you say to the Bernie supporters that are kind of fed up with Hillary people saying that they were the reason why he lost, where there was other
I don't say
incidences?
the reason. I said one of the reasons. The the elections in those 3 states that mattered
Right.
was so close. You're talking 77,000 votes. So I can add up, she didn't go. They didn't like her.
Right.
Comey,
Right.
Bernie. Those 4 things added together, I think she would have won dramatically. Dramatically. So I don't blame him. I blame him for a piece of it. Because
Personally, I think Hillary's policies were way more progressive than Joe Biden's. And
actually, you're wrong, quite
all
honestly.
right.
You are wrong.
Well, as far as Medicare, Hillary wanted to get it cut off at 50. Joe Biden wants 60.
But he also wants a public policy, a public option. You
Right.
know, this, you have to know math. You have to really, I'm serious. You have to know math. You have to know the Senate. The Senate is a very different body. Even if we, and I'm praying we take back the Senate, we have blue dogs in the Senate that will not initially vote for Medicare for all, okay? If we get a Medicare reduced, I think it should be lower than 60, but let's say lowered to 60, give a public option for the OFA, which would automatically, once you do that, all the insurance companies, in order to compete, they're going to have to lower their prices. And if they're able to do something with the prescription drug companies, which is, look, we're seniors, my husband and I, and I know what medicine costs. It's crazy.
Right.
If they can negotiate like Medicare does, prescription drug prices, that's the start, Rob. This is a very, the House is one thing. The Senate is where everything gets finalized. Will not pass it. I'm telling you, not initially. If you get that public option in, that's the start. Nothing
Can I
has
just
to
say
pass
this is
in America.
Can I just say this is the problem, and I like President Obama, and I think he did a good job. But this is the problem I had with the and I used to call all the time to pass Obamacare. The problem with I had with Obamacare was there was no cost controls on Obamacare and with the plans, and they're sky high right now. And a lot of that is due to Trump, and he's took a lot of the regulations and stuff. So I will give that the pass. And I want to be fair to the president. And it was a tough fight in general, and we were all in that fight in general too. But my thing was he took away the public option. I believe that the public option should have been pushed in Obamacare. Obama had the wind behind him. He was a strong leader. He had OFA, and I don't believe they used OFA the way they should have to get people involved. He had all these people behind him, people like you, people like me, that wanted the president to succeed, and he just went in there and tried to be buddy-buddy with the Republicans. They freaking hate you. They don't want you. They don't want the black guy in there. Let's be honest. Those were the code words that they were talking about. And get out there and fight. The people are behind you. The people want you. If he did that public option there, then this year we could have been fighting for Medicare for all full on there. So that's, I believe, the problems with the president. He wanted to be a nice guy. And when you're president, and we know that as well with Trump, you can't be that nice guy. And even though Trump's a jerk, he gets things done, whatever he wants. And we don't agree with the stuff he gets done, but he gets whatever he wants. And Bush did the same thing. Bush, he was a con artist and a phony too. And whatever he wanted to get done, he was going to get it pushed through. And that's what he did. And I believe that Bush used the evangelical vote just as much as Trump is using it now. And they were both fake religious people.
Right. Our party, first of all, our party is very dramatically different than the Republican Party. I mean, the Republican Party, they had to deal with the Tea Party, but now, look what's happened now. The evangelicals have a huge hold on the party. The party is Trump's party at this point. But as far as what happened with OFA, I'm going to tell you what my one problem with my president, who will be my forever president. He he what he did in campaigning,
Yeah.
he should have continued in
Right.
governing. As you say, he should have used OFA. He should have gotten them in front of the American people, just like Trump does almost every day,
Yeah.
and said to us, listen, this is what I need you to do. The other thing he was really bad at was working with Congress and the Senate.
Yeah.
He basically said to Nancy, you get it done. And he couldn't work with McConnell. McConnell told him basically, whatever you want, it's no. And that's what he did.
Well,
No.
Jane, remember when Obama got elected that first night, Boehner, McConnell, and the Republican Party,
Right.
they said,
Right.
we want to make him a one-term
Right.
president. That's
Exactly.
it. That would have been it for me. I would have said,
Obama
okay.
had no chance with the Senate, even when we had 60 votes,
Yeah.
because we always had, oh God, the one he's really more Republican than he is a Democrat.
Lieberman was there, Nelson, Ben Nelson from
No,
Nebraska.
Ben Nelson. Ben Nelson was that was a big problem that we had, and
But you know what? He had the power again. He should have said, you know what? You don't want to vote for this? I'll have somebody run against you in the next election. So screw
that was
you.
never going to be Obama.
But that's
I
power, though.
know, I
That's
know.
power.
I said,
That's the
that's
bully
when,
puppet. You think
that,
Trump? You think Trump? If one of these guys like Rob, you know what he does to Romney? Those guys that say, "Oh, we're not going to do this," or they voted against him for impeachment. Trump's he'll go against those guys in 10
I know.
seconds. He doesn't give a damn.
Obama was never that guy. And you could never have made him that guy. The only thing he should have done was right from the beginning, he should have called both chambers, Democratic chambers, to the White House. He should have had meetings with these guys all the time. He
Yeah.
never liked
The governor.
never liked small talk. He never liked BS stuff. It wasn't. I remember he was on Oprah's show one time, and he was basically talking about the fact that he just doesn't like that stuff. I mean, his whole cerebral way of thinking, Rob, is basically, okay, this is what should be. Now let's do it. But he was never going to get Medicare for all. And he was never going to get that public option. It was never going to get passed. If you've read about the 20 months of OFA, he lost so much political capital getting that thing done, because the one thing I'll credit the Republican Party they've always been better at messaging than
Oh
we
yeah,
have.
by far,
Always.
yes.
And they made this thing with the death panels and the this and the that. What they didn't do, they didn't bastardize the Affordable Care Act. And then the damn website didn't work the first day, which didn't help either. And remember, initially, the way this thing was, insurance companies were not allowed to make any more than a 20% profit. You remember that? That's how it started. And 80-something% of the people got money towards
Subsidies,
their
yeah.
subsidies,
Yeah.
because they made that number pretty high.
Right.
But it was still crazy expensive. And then Republicans slowly but surely got everything turned away that they could, which is almost everything, by the way.
Can we just talk about this and be honest, though? I know you're going to hate me for saying this.
I
though.
don't hate. I will never hate you.
If Bernie got in there, though, he might have not passed Medicare for all fully. But I'm going to tell you this, though. If those guys started that crap saying they weren't going to vote for stuff, he would have went out there and blonde-stormed the country and really got everybody riled up. You agree with that, though?
I won't, and I won't. The reason I won't is because even if Bernie got the people upset, he never had power in the Senate.
Yeah, but
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. You're interviewing me, remember? His colleagues, with very few exceptions, do not like Bernie Sanders.
Biden likes him.
Biden, gets along with everybody. Biden gets along with Republicans. He does.
Yeah,
He's a
I
good guy.
know.
He's just a nice guy. They all like Biden. He's like
But but
John
but
Lewis.
Jane, that's the future of the party. The Bernie Sanders wing,
I don't
AOC, Ilhan.
disagree. I don't disagree. But the difference between AOC and Bernie Sanders, quite honestly, is AOC has charm. AOC is likable.
Fair.
And I think that's really, I know that doesn't seem like much, but it's a big deal. No, it's a big
No, I
deal.
agree.
If you want to persuade people. I'm still amazed that Bernie Sanders was able to do what he was. But again, I see what he promised. He got the young people involved because he promised all kinds of free stuff. You know,
Yeah,
it's true. It's true.
But Jane, I gotta push back there.
Go ahead.
That's a Republican talking point with the free stuff because
But it's true.
but hold on, but the Republican talk, everything is socialist, everything is
Oh,
free.
forget
They were
that.
gonna call Bernie Sanders a socialist, they called Barack Obama a socialist,
I
they're
know.
calling Joe Biden a socialist. It didn't matter who it was. Second of all, with the free stuff, we need a Green New Deal, or else we're not going to have a world
I
for your grandchildren, for me, for
I
anybody.
I
We need Medicare
understand.
for all. But the
Well,
Republicans will put any kind of war, and the military budget is over $700 billion, but nobody's saying how are we going to pay for it? Nobody's saying how are we going to pay for Trump to take his whole damn family all over the world and he puts them in his own hotels and we're paying the tax bills. So it's
right.
okay for all these things to happen. But when we want programs that are going to help regular working people in this country, how are we going to pay for it? It's a freebie.
You're
People don't want to
preaching to
work.
you're preaching to the choir.
Well,
The
I
problem,
know.
the problem, can I tell you the honest to God truth?
Yeah.
The military industrial complex is so powerful, Rob, that probably 80% of that budget could be eliminated. We've got bases that could be closed. We're making weapons that are not even used,
Right.
but they're jobs, so they keep them open. We have bases again that aren't being used, and they keep them open because the our problem is we're a one-year government. Every congressperson does whatever work they can do for a year, and then they're running for re-election for a
Agree.
second year. So basically, nobody thinks about 10 years down the line. Social Security needs to be addressed.
Trump wants to cut it with the
No, I don't
right
forget
now.
Trump. I don't agree with anything with Trump.
Well,
But what I'm saying
yeah,
is
go ahead.
that our party has to do something about Social Security. My boss has every single time introduced a bill to raise the cap on income so that everybody pays the same 6.2%. And if they do, it extends the life of Social Security
Agreed.
to 75 years. The Republicans are so smart, they call it a tax increase. Well, it's not. Social Security is supposed to be 6.2%. They don't think of it that way, though. So
I agree with you, but if the people keep acting, how are we going to pay for it? And comes from a lot of Democrats too. I'm sorry to say that. And we saw it up on the debate stage, whether it was Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, or anybody else.
I know.
They use the same talking points. We cannot get progressives elected. We cannot get these policies passed if we have moderate Democrats. And I'm sorry to say, I don't want to sound ageist, but a lot of the older people saying, how are we
I
going to pay
know.
for it?
I know.
What's true is true. I'm not trying to be ageist again,
No.
but these are the facts. Then we cannot get younger people elected. We cannot get progressives elected, and we cannot get these policies passed if we keep getting the same old politics. And this is the way it
I
is.
don't know how we get the military budget cut. And that is what we need to do in order to.
Well, we need to get money out of politics, and that's the only way
Oh, I
this
know.
stuff is going to
I
happen.
get
The
that too.
Citizens United decision
Right.
against Hillary
The
Clinton with the
worst.
movie
The
was the
worst.
worst, and that
Right.
really corrupted. Government was already corrupt before
Right.
that. but at
Right.
least there was a little bit of guardrails in place. Now
Right.
there's zero, and now we see the funding for campaigns on both sides
Right.
by the oil companies, the military industrial complex,
Right.
and the list goes on, health
Right.
insurance, and it goes
Right.
on and on. I want to get to this because I know you got to roll at 3, and I don't want to leave before we ask these questions, Jayne. My thing is with Florida, I'm up in the I-4 corridor, which is a huge part of Florida, and where a lot of these elections get decided. I see tons of Trump signs. I walk around, and as a Bernie supporter, people think I'm crazy with this, but I wear my my Joe Biden hat
Good for you.
because I do support him, even though I'm not really a fan of his policies. And when he gets in the White House, if he does get there, I'm going to fight with him day one
There
and
you
go on
go.
and on.
That's
But
what
we
you
need
have
to
to
get
do.
this maniac out of the White House. With
Right.
that said, what are you seeing in South Florida? We see all these boat parties in Miami and Palm Beach with all these stupid people with the Trump flags and no masks, and they're running around acting like their life is a party and everything's great. Do you think Trump's going to win Florida? And besides that, what is going on in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade?
Okay, I'm going to tell you what happened with me.
Okay.
I restarted the Boca Point Democratic Club. I did it for one reason only. I don't care about Democratic Club. For me, I go to others for work, but I wanted volunteers for the election. And the first meeting, I had about 60 people. I said,
Oh, wow.
all right, everybody who is as desperate to win this election as I am, stand up. Everybody stood up. I said, okay, now not one of you has an excuse not to help me. So I have a lot of volunteers. We
Great.
have 5 precincts in Boca Point. We're about a 50-50 community. But I have a lot of Republicans who are, we don't call Republicans, but I have had Republicans tell me I can't vote for that man again. I'll vote Republican down the line, but I cannot vote for that president again. And Ted, quite honestly, always gets Republicans voting for him because they like his position on Israel. So he has no problem. He's going to win re-election.
I interviewed one of the women that was running against him. She was really off the wall.
I
Young
know.
woman,
I know.
Jesse
Yes,
Melton.
yes.
Yeah, I was trying
Well,
to
she
stay.
didn't win the primary, so
Wow, yeah, she was
yeah.
very
Of
scary.
the people who were running against him, the one who won the primary is the most,
Yeah, it was a man. Yeah.
has a little bit of a sense in his brain. But anyway, this is what needs to happen. We need to pull more votes in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade than we did in 2016 and 18. We have signed up more vote by mail people than our goal was for Palm Beach County. So I'm feeling a little optimistic. I'm afraid to get too optimistic, but I'm feeling a little optimistic. I think if we get our vote out, if we get people, to turn their ballots in right away, bring them to the early voting locations.
Are you worried about the Jewish population voting for Joe Biden? Because there was all, with the Trump family, we all know Jared is Jewish, Ivanka
I
converted.
don't think that matters. I
But
think
what about the Israel? What about the
the
Israel with the
same,
Gotham Heights?
the same people that voted for Trump who are Jewish now and before will probably vote for him again. I don't think he got more Jewish people.
Not
Joe,
even with this peace deal thing and with the Gotham Heights thing before?
I know, but Joe has a very good record on Israel.
Right.
I mean, if you like Netanyahu, you're probably voting for Trump. I'm serious. If you like Netanyahu, who I can't stand, you're probably voting for Trump.
I agree.
So, it is what it is. If Israel is your number one issue and you like Netanyahu and you don't believe in a 2-state solution, you're probably voting for Trump.
Yeah, as we talk to the viewers and end this people need to get out and vote. And as cringeworthy as it is, we need to vote for Joe Biden and get
It's
him in the
not
White House.
cringeworthy. Rob, you just have to think about Donald Trump. Keep Donald
Agreed.
Trump in your brain, and you'll be in love with Joe Biden. And let me tell you one other thing about Joe.
Yeah.
He is going to get the best people in his cabinet.
Yeah. I agree.
Pete's probably going to be in his cabinet, who was my candidate.
Right.
A lot of people, Stacy maybe, a lot of people, hopefully we won't pull too many out of the Senate. I'd like to keep the Senate in place. But he's got an incredible amount of people to work with. I'd love to see Russ Feingold brought back to do something. I loved Russ Feingold. I was so upset that he lost, Al Franken, I'd love to see Al brought back to do something, So he's got a tremendous pool of fabulous people to work with. So take heart. I'm telling you, he's going to have the best cabinet ever.
Again, I'm going to vote for him, but I just, it's
Rob, I'm telling you, you've got to think of the cabinet, because the cabinet really, he's going to be our cheerleader. He's going to be our consoler in chief. The people, his cabinet is going to be doing a lot of the work.
I agree. All right, Jayne, I'll let you roll. I appreciate you having on. We'll do this again down the road.
Okay, kid. Take care.
All right, bye. Thanks, Jayne.